effect. Here you can see that whenever a substance undergoes combustion, there are some suspended particles that collapse through those materials. So that was also very important observation we made while making this tutorial. So let's get started with that effect. Alright, so here you can see that to uh, to produce that effect, I have to take the help of the particle systems and allow them to undergo the free fall, which will be finally the source of the fluid. So here we're going to create the particles. Go to the particles create emitter, and we can carefully position along the wooden base element under the posh. You just have to adjust the size and the volume of the emitter. Just rotate that a little bit more. Yes, that would be fine. And I can tweak some parameters of the particle emitter. Like I just don't want to use the away from the center. Let's say along axis I give to 2, so that they just jump upwards and then falls down under the impact of the gravity. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna use a very low rate so that these particles shouldn't be, fall in a bigger number. Okay, so this time they are going in upward directions. I'm going to go to the outliner, select the particles and hit the gravity so that I can make the free fall of the particles. Okay, that's fine. Definitely I can change the particle type to spherical. Let's say we hit the spheres and dip down the size to approximately 0.180. Here you can see that these particles are falling on the floor. Let's play the timeline. Yeah, that's fine. We're going to select the particle system and make this surface to make collide. Okay, that's fine. Now just gonna select the geoconnector node and dip down the resilience, so that just don't want the bigger bounces of these particle system. Okay, that's fine. Now what I'm gonna do next is to create a fluid container. I'm gonna carefully position it along the base side area by adjusting the resolution to 60 with an initial startup. Size I'm gonna reduce to 8 to 15 to 8 again, and I'm just gonna position that properly. Yes, that is fine. And go to the contents method, set the fuel and temperature to dynamic again. In the display section, dip down the slice per voxel to 1 and boundary draw to the bounding box. Alright, go to the dynamic simulation and set the high detail solve to all grids. Under solver quality, extend to 25. The simulation rate should be set to 1.5 to 1.25 according to your own artistic decision. I'm going to use the auto resize again. Max resolution set to 350 and resize margin set to 6 in that case. Now go to the content details section. Under the density, I want the buoyancy should be 0, but to reduce the in order to end the buoyancy, I have to use the dissipation parameter, set that to 2, and in the velocity I'll set the swirl approximately to 5. This time I'm gonna use the turbulence. Maybe I can use the turbulence field also, that depends totally up to you. Let's go to the 0.25 and I'm gonna use a high frequency of 0.5. Under the temperature, which is extremely important parameter, I'm gonna use the temperature scale remains to, let's say, 2, and buoyancy should be set that to 5. The dissipation should be set to 6. Diffusion should be set to 0. And turbulence, maybe I just want 1. Under the fuel section, I'm just going to increase the reaction speed to 1, light release to 1, and max temperature to 0. Transparency under the shading menu set to approximately 0.7 to 0.3, and edge drop off should be set to 0, with glow intensity approximately to set to 0.1. Color, I'm gonna use that to with true color entry list. Color input set that to temperature with some little bit of bias. In the incandescence section, I just wanna push the graph towards the right hand side with some tweak of colors, set that to 0.9. Under the opacity graph, opacity input should be set to the temperature, and just gonna play around with the graph, which is quite easy, and just want to extend that. I believe so this should be fine. Alright, just extend it to approximately 0.5. Now let's come on to the shading. Obviously I'm going to use a render interpolator set to the smooth. Under the lighting section, I want to use a self shadow and ambient brightness set to 0.35 with real light set to off. That was the desired settings I was looking forward for the falling flames. Now I'm just going to go to the outliner, select the fluid, select the particles, go to the fluid effects and click the option add edit contents to emit from object. But when you play that, you won't be seeing anything. Why? Because we need to enable the use distance in the attribute section of the fluid emitter, and obviously I'm gonna have to use a fairly high amount of the rate %. So what I'm gonna do is that use the use distance, and I'm gonna use a fairly low amount of distance, approximately 0.15, and with a very high rate of the particles, let's say approximately to 8,000 in the start. And I'm gonna come down to the emission speed attributes. I'm gonna set the speed method to the maybe to the add. Of course I have to use the inherent velocity because the fluid has to adhere the motion of the particles as they are dipping down. And whenever you have to use the inherent velocity, please don't forget to switch on this important attribute, motion streaks. That would otherwise helps in reducing the stamp spacing effect in the fluid that makes otherwise fluid very bad. I'm just gonna play that thing. Okay, so here you can see that the particles are coming down with that effect. Now I'll just gonna tweak some more values. Let's say under the fluid shape menu, we have to adjust the boundary set to none, and in this case boundary y set to -y. And of course I have to play around with some bias settings, incandescence bias as well as opacity bias. As you can see that the color which I am getting is more towards the orange, but I have to make it a little bit more towards the yellow. Okay, that's fine, and I think so that is 0.56 should be fine. You must be comfortable with these two important attributes, input bias, or the opacity as well as the incandescence. Now I'm just gonna take a render. I think I need to increase the resolution, set that to approximately 80. I'll play that again. So I'm just take a stop and just take the render of that. Alright, that's fine. All just you need to do is that you can dip down the use distance attribute. Maybe you can set that to 0.1 also. Play that again. In this case, make sure that you have to use a fairly high amount of the rate of the particles from fluid emitter. Alright, obviously we can play around with some little bit more the bias settings of the opacity as well as the incandescence. Let me push that to approximately, let's say 0.55, and let's say 0.95. Play that again. Okay, let them allow to fall. Take that render again. Alright, I just need to improve the quality of my dynamics. So what I can do, that I can just go to the outliner, select the fluid, and I can make it collide. And of course I can select my object, select the fluid, and make that thing collide. And in case my particle falls on the floor or the stairs, I can also make that collide. So make the fluid collide with that. Play that one again. Alright, that's fine. Now just take a look at the video again, where we got the render. So here you can see that by using the particles as a source of the fluid, as a source of an emitter for fluid, we can obviously create the believable effects of falling flames. So now let's move to the next part.